The Writer's Dossier Podcast is a proud member of the Authors on the Air Global Radio Network.
I'm Henry Wise, and this is my Writer's Dossier.
No writers were harmed in the production of this podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Writer's Dossier here from the Dossier Podcast Studio, Writer's Room, and occasional speakeasy. So, Joe, we got to have you in here sometime. But tonight, we're joined today, whenever you're listening or watching on YouTube, I have Henry Wise on the show right now. Henry, thanks for joining us, man.
Thanks, Jeff. This is awesome.
And joining you, I love these types of interviews. Joe Brosnan, my pal from Grove whatever, because it is growing and he's taking over. So, Joe Brosnan, thanks for joining us too, man.
Hey, Jeff. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Excited to chat.
Yeah, I mean, this is a combination of what you've done with Henry and John Talbot, Henry's agent, the wonderful collaboration and coming together of a story that almost wasn't made or set out there for us all to enjoy, and it rising up to very top to a black tie affair and winning the Edgar for best first novel. And this is not an I told you so moment, but Henry, I have been in your corner since the beginning, and I'm so happy for you. And Joe, I'm so happy for you because I've seen you move up step after step after step, and holy shit, Holy City was amazing. And I'm kind of quoting my buddy Scott Blackburn on that. But Henry, you wrote a banger, and it's not just me saying it. Everyone said it. So again, congratulations.
Well, thanks a lot. Yeah, I appreciate everything you're doing.
Yeah, I appreciate you, and Joe, you too. And Joe, I owe you back for a drink from last time. So we'll catch up.
I'll make sure we catch that in, yeah.
But we get right to it here at the Writer's Dossier. We respect your guys' time because we know you're busy doing amazing things, and our listeners are in the car or they have a few minutes to catch something. This is the episode to catch because, like I said, we've got two amazing guys on. I'm going to jump right into these questions. We talked to a lot of writers here about their process. Tom Straw writes his books out of a fountain pen. You write things out longhand, and then you use an old typewriter. Where do you go from there? Do you just put those type sheets in a shoebox and mail them off to Joe and hope he figures it out? I mean, how's it work from there?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. And it's, I mean, typically what I do, and the reason that I love the typewriter is that it forces me to create, to move forward, it gives me a kind of a built-in second draft because I have to transcribe into the computer. And so that's what I do. I mean, it's very time consuming, no question about it. But, you know, what makes me sound really old, but with word processors, you could spend a week on a paragraph. You don't have that kind of time. For me, it's about getting to the end of a first draft to see if there is an arc, if there's something to work with.
What about Control-C, Control-V? For those of us who are familiar with keyboard shortcuts, that's copying a section and moving it to like another part of the chapter. Is there a lot of pen circling and arrowing?
Definitely.
Okay.
See, I think a lot of people, and I used to think this, a lot of people, I think, feel pressure to write B before you get to C. And I don't necessarily think that always makes sense. So I give myself permission to write a scene if I see it, if I start to feel it, even if I don't know what happens before that or after. So there is a lot of rearrangement. Actually, Joe and I have been talking about my second book just this morning about, you know, rearranging some scenes. So it's definitely a mess, but that's how I work.
We're breaking news here. Joe Brosnan, Henry Wise, working on book 2. So we're talking back-to-back Edgars here, and I'm not jinxing anything when I say that. So let me ask you this. When I think of your writing and you're typing, and I picture what's Henry doing in Virginia right now, there's this scene in the movie Love Actually where Jamie, the character played by Colin Firth, is in this idyllic scene where he's typing at the end of a dock overlooking a lake. There's a breeze that sends the sheets flying off into the water. Now, it worked out pretty well for him because the girl he was with ripped off her top, jumped over the water to save the papers. Have you had to change your process at all with the papers, with where you sit and work? Like, has anything like that ever happened? Like papers don't fly in and you lost the order?
Luckily, no. I mean, not really, but sometimes you do need to shuffle things up just to I mean, because sometimes what you think needs to be told doesn't need to be told, or the order needs to be disrupted, you know.
So do you worry about chapter length when you're typing out, or do you just go and finish that scene that you just feel compelled to write?
I mean, a lot of the time I don't even finish a scene. I mean, you start with a good setup or something, but you don't always know where it's going, and then maybe you have to write 3 more scenes to figure out how that scene is going to end. So yeah, I mean, my process is messy. No question.
Has anyone given you advice about outlining and then you just told them, no, forget it, that doesn't work for me?
I think people know better than to give me advice. And I mean, I'm not saying that because of Holy City. I'm saying, like, you know, if you're a writer, you sort of figure out what works for you, I think.
There you go.
And I mean, you know, a typewriter's not going to work for everybody. It's just not.
Well, there's some really good advice for everyone out there who's listening, who wants to write or wants to finish their book and get it to Joe someday. Don't worry about it. Do your own thing. So, Joe, I've talked in the past in the dossier of how this book has an unprecedented twist that might shock some people. It went so far that some people said you took a chance on Holy City and Henry as a debut writer. All that paid off with the Edgar win, obviously. So where's your limit, Joe, with taking chances like that? Because a lot of editors passed on this story. Were you scared?
No, I wasn't scared. I think there are certain types of things that could scare me. I'm not saying I'm unscarable, but Henry wrote a book that had an authentic voice and a very specific plot and direction. And we talked about a lot of, you know, things on what we were comfortable putting into the book and how far we wanted to take it. And my edit style is to ask a lot of questions. And I edit by hand as well. So Henry and I maybe are kindred spirits there, but I just kept asking him, you sure? Yeah, keep with it. Like, are we doing this? And every time we asked those questions, the answer was emphatically yes. And so I'm going to roll with the writer there. I think it's their story. I'm here to, you know, bring it out, but not change it. And yeah, I mean, I guess it's sad a little bit that like other people don't feel comfortable telling like some fucked up stories.
Mm-hmm.
But those are the stories that are real and the ones that, you know, evoke emotion. And I loved that about this book from the get-go, and it was what attracted me to it. So yeah, I mean, other people's loss, we're not seeing that, but I'm happy.
Other people's loss, absolutely, and a lot of other people's. Henry, how long did you work on finding John Talbot?
Well, time-wise, I can't remember. It was a couple years, but he was the 85th agent that I queried. And so one question that I got once that I thought was really good, it was actually my first book event. Somebody said, well, how could you be rejected 84 times and then be poised to, you know, it seems that your book is set to do okay. And, you know, I don't have an answer for that, but I do know that if I had stopped at 75, I never would have gotten John Talbot, never would have gotten a deal. And so some people will say, you know, I've queried 5 agents, I've queried 10 agents. That's just not enough. Rejection is truly, and truly is 99% of what I know.
Well, then after John, how long was it until Joe came along?
That's the incredible thing. Joe was the first person we sent to. We got rejected by, you know, we sent probably to maybe 8 editors, but Joe was the first. I remember it was right around the 4th of July. And then we did a round to other people. But, you know, John Talbot was like, I think, you know, Joe seems to be a really good fit for this. We're going to try him first. He did not respond first, which is actually something that, you know, we weren't sure, you know, where we stood. But that was something that impressed John, was sort of, he was like, yeah, I like how Joe kind of took his time, had some other people look at it. And so when he came to the table with an offer, it was like fully, there weren't any more contingents really. It was just like, can we work together? But time-wise, the incredible thing about that was, once I got John, it was 5 months until I got this book deal.
Mystery Mike's was born in 1986, but Mike Bursaw's passion for books began way before that. When he was a boy, the bookmobile in Minneapolis would park across the street from his house, and Mike would check out as many books as were allowed. By the time he was 15, he was working for a wholesale bookseller, and he's been selling books ever since. Mystery Mike is a legend in the book community, and after a long career, he's closing up shop. It's tough to see the store close, but that means another thing: 45% off their entire inventory. Take advantage now. Things are literally flying off the shelves and being shipped all over the world. Head straight to mysterymikes.com and get a great deal on books you're not going to find anywhere else. That's mysterymikes.com. And thanks, Mike, for everything you've done for all of us.
With Joe.
That's because John's amazing and he's in the dossier. Y'all are in the dossier. So, Joe, what was your process like? You I don't know if you knew, hey, I'm one of 8 here who have this. May not have known that. So if you go into this blind and you see this banger, do you just start passing it around and say, hey, I think I've got something here? Or did it go differently with you and your colleagues?
Yeah, so I mean, we're in a little bit of a house at Grove Atlantic, right? I'm the point person here for all like our crime and mystery and thriller submissions. As a result, I am inundated with them. There are
You are.
simply not enough
Hundreds.
hours in the day to get through what I have in my inbox. And that's only gotten more and more the case. And so when there's a pecking order, and I knew John from before this deal. We had actually done a deal together when I was at Minotaur Books for Steve Erzani's series. So I knew John, and I had kind of aligned tastes, and I liked the list he builds. I knew when he sent me anything, like, it's going to get read, but it's not going to I still have an order, and I still need to be in the right headspace to read a submission. It's the only fair way to do it. And sometimes you're just not in that, let's read right now and see if I want to buy something, because if I'm not there, then it's a disservice to that submission and that author and that agent. So it took me a little time to come around to Henry. And I mean, you've read it. If you haven't read Henry, Henry's a writer, right? His sentences and his imagery and everything he does, it takes a little bit of let's sit down, buckle in, and really savor and enjoy it. And so when you have something like that, that's a submission process that I'm going to take my time with, right? And we only have a handful of spots, especially for debut authors. So, we have to be really careful and protective of who we give those opportunities to. And so, yeah, my process was to then get some other reads on it from people here who, and Henry does such a good job of kind of going between this crime space and this literary space. And so at Grove, it's kind of a perfect fit because we really do publish a lot of lit fiction. And I got really, enthusiastic reads, and some people being like, holy shit, that book really went there. And that's all good.
Yeah, that's just it. That's what people need to hear about this. It's unlike anything else.
And so from once I knew I was interested, and I not to sound cocky, I knew I would probably end up getting it with John. I felt like we had that relationship, and Henry and I had a kind of feel each other out call, and that went well. And from there we were rolling, and we moved right into edits pretty quickly.
Okay. I love it. Where are we with Atlantic Crime? I know you've gotten 800,000 submissions. Grove Atlantic made a big move with this crime imprint, but writers like Henry lies in your stable. How do you feel about things going forward?
We're so excited. We officially announced the imprint in February of this year, of 2025. And starting in September, in the fall this year, our first books will be coming out with the logo on the spine, officially Atlantic Crime Books. And
just in time for BoucherCon. Awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And so we have a really great inaugural list. I think we have Ken Jaworowski's What About the Bodies? We have Tom Ryan's latest. We had a hunch. We have this British mystery series we just acquired called, the first book is called The Dentist by Tim Sullivan. We bought all 8 books in the series. We'll be pushing them out over the next year. We have a Val McDermott. There's another couple, Mindy Mejia has a new book as well. So we have a chock full of new books, exciting books for the fall. And that's really just going to be what we're going to start the momentum. We've already been advertising and pushing and promoting, and it goes right into the winter where we have a new James Lee Burke, and then some others, and a Mike Lawson, and all these really exciting authors. And then, comes spring, summer, and new ones from Henry and a couple other authors. And it's just can't stop, won't stop, I guess. But
so stay busy, because everybody loves what you're doing, and everyone out there, there's a little peek into what's going on in Grove Atlantic and Atlantic Crime. You take a look at this fall. This is going to be a big blast out, and lots of things happening, and I've got to ask about your tech. How many fax machines do you have between the two of you guys? The way we're going back to the 80s and 90s here with our editing and our everything.
No, I think it's
scanners.
Common. I don't know if the typewriter is quite as common, but I think like people like to edit on paper. People like to read out loud. I think there are just certain tactile ways to get off the screen that really help, writers and editors and readers relearn what they're doing and learn why they're doing it. And yeah, I agree with Henry. He's retyping everything up a second time. I go through my edits a second. I write them all by hand. So many of half of my comments maybe around that don't actually make it into the edit because they're questions I'm scribbling, but that I can answer later on. And if I was doing it in one Word doc, I'd have to read that Word doc again. And I don't know, I've spent too much time on my computer. I don't need to read a Word doc 2 times.
Yeah, you've got to have an efficient process because you've got so much going on. Henry, what can you tell us real quick about your next book? You don't have to go into anything you don't want to, but I mean, people are discovering this book and they're going to want something else. So what have you got for us?
Yeah, I think the most important thing to realize is that it's the same world. It is a sequel of sorts, but you will be introduced to a new cast of characters as well. But I think what really pulled me in was the Snakefoot region that appears in Holy City. It's sort of this underworld where just things don't entirely make sense and just weird things happen. We're zooming into that kind of swamp area in Southern Virginia. And so almost the entire book takes place there.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're looking forward to you putting something together on the campus of VMI. Maybe we can have some kind of Citadel VMI rivalry going on there. But we appreciate the regional emphasis that you bring and the specificity of that. It reminds me of Sean Cosby, when he gets into a zone like that. So everyone, Henry Wise, that's all you need to type into your Google search. And then you can buy anything that Joe Brosnan puts out because things are happening there. So guys, again, thanks so much for joining us. I'm so thrilled for both of you. Can't wait to see you about VoucherCon. I know we've hung out together in the past, and I'm really looking forward to some more time together and keeping what you're doing. Guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight on the podcast. Everybody, get to know Henry Wise, henrywise.com, groveatlantic.com. Is that the best place to, okay, Joe, there you go.
Yeah, groveatlantic.com. Follow us on socials, do all those things. And Jeff, thank you. You do a lot of work in helping promote books in this space, and it's really appreciated and I think recognized. So I'm really happy we got to join.
Well, thank you. I do this for stuff that I love and stuff I believe in, and I'm really glad to be in your guys' corner. So thanks for letting me hang out with you, and we will see you next time. Thanks a lot for joining us. We'll see you in VoucherCon.
Thanks, Jeff.
Take care.
Bye, everybody. See you guys.
The Dossier Podcast is a production of The Idea Academy.